Good morning. Good morning, folks. Good morning, Israel. Rise and shine, awaken. Okay. I want to tell you about Jeremiah. Um, I really want to tell you about Jeremiah. Basically, what we don't realize in this nation is that Jeremiah, the prophet, was given several tasks, and that included planting. And that was the last of his assignments. And what he did is he planted a lot of the seeds for the United States of America. We believe he did that by taking a ship of Tarshish, an ocean-going vessel, and we believe that he went to the wilderness, which would have been North America. That we believe that there's a good chance that he went up the Mississippi River and that he went inland in Arkansas, what has become known as Arkansas today, and that he actually brought the Ark of the Covenant to this country. Supposedly it's at Mount Magazine, and there are unusual electrical storms there. I was hoping to get to Mount Magazine this summer, but I lost my toad early in the summer, so I wasn't able to do the traveling as planned and as expected. I'd like to go up to Mount Magazine. I have a friend who's been up there many times. But apparently, and I'd like to talk to the people in the area, of course, the electrical storms apparently are very intense there. And so Jeremiah didn't just tear down, or at least oversee and be Yahweh's prophet during the tear down of Israel. He actually planted the two heirs of the throne. You see, Hezekiah, when he was captured, his sons were put to death before him, so that the last thing he saw was the princes being killed, and they blinded him. But the crown princesses escaped. I guess that's sexism for you. The two princesses ended up with Jeremiah. And while Jeremiah was allowed to go anywhere he wanted by the Babylonians, that's what the captain of the Babylonians told him, you can go wherever you want. I'll take you back to Babylon. The king's going to take care of you. They recognized him for the prophet that he was. And Nebuchadnezzar was God's agent in the destruction of Babylon. So here today we have the destruction of Babylon about to happen. And what will that destruction look like? From my reading of the Bible, it's going to be hellfire and brimstone. It's going to be sacrificial fire. It's going to be nuclear war. And the eagle is going to burn from one end to the other end. Now, I read it, and I came up with the eagle's going to burn. It's going to lose its feathers, and the world will stand in horror. At this point, though, I'm pretty much sure that we get toasted. God has judged America. We've got it coming. Several things that God can't stand, and one of those is the shedding of innocent blood. And we're very guilty of that in this nation. We have more prisoners, more inmates, more people incarcerated per capita, than any other nation on earth, actually. I think we have about as many as the Chicoms have, as Red China has. And I know that was based on per capita, but I'm beginning to wonder if it might be just based on sheer numbers, not just proportion of our populations. We do have the same numbers of cameras that China has. So they're already running the Chinese model here. They're already taking the photographs. They've already got, they're compiling the data. It's just a matter of time before they formally release that beast upon us. Social credits, carbon credits, carbon taxation. They're getting all of that data together on their big computers. Your boys in Silicon Valley are all Chicom agents, basically. That's the way it is. By the way, I think Elon Musk raised his head and took over Twitter because he's going to lose his ass on Tesla. The Chinese require people to give up their patents, their intellectual property, in order to do business over there. I believe Elon Musk gave up a lot of patents, and the Chinese are going to hand him his lunch because they're going to be able to make electric cars for about 1/4 the cost of Teslas today. So I think when Elon Musk took over Twitter, it was more of an act of self-defense than selflessness. I think it's also an act of, it's a good public relations act. I mean, if you want to pull off the biggest experiment in the world, putting chips inside all your human beings and wiring them up to the internet so you can dance them around like puppets or do whatever you want to them, put agony in them, anything you want, then, and you had a chip that you want the public to accept, you're going to be the nicest guy you can. Of course, remember how he dressed for Halloween, folks. I don't trust him. I don't trust any of those boys at the top. I think they're all part of the same beast system, to be honest with you. So when Jeremiah was hauled, yes, he was hauled, the captains that were left in Israel took him forcibly to Egypt against his will, along with the crown princesses. And there were 2 princesses. And the first thing, and Jeremiah told them not to go, that they would be dying there. And once Jeremiah got freed down there while in Egypt, he got away with the crown princesses and went back to Jerusalem. And from Jerusalem, he gathered up, I think he gathered up the genealogical table records, the Ark of the Covenant, David's musical instruments, the pillow stone, above all, the 2 princesses. And he headed out. And he went first to Spain, and he stopped in Spain, and he married off Princess Skoda there. Princess Skoda was married off to an Israelite who was in dispersion. Remember, oh boy, see if I can get this right, because this is it's important. About 722 BC, Israel was attacked by Assyria, and what followed were, depending upon how you read the scriptures, the Bible, were 3 or 4 military campaigns by the Assyrians into the northern house of Israel. Oh, I gotta sneeze. Oh, that itchy feeling. And then Nebuchadnezzar, or the Babylonians, went into the southern house. And actually, the Assyrians did go into the southern half of Judah. And they attacked the walled cities, but I don't think they took them down. But I think they took some of the people out. And they hauled all these people off to the other side of their nation to put the Israelites down in between themselves and the Medes. So the Assyrians were using the Israelites as a buffer zone, because in order for the Medes to get to the Assyrians, they'd have to go through the Israelites first. So they used them to protect themselves. There are 3 landmarks in the Old Testament. I can't turn to them immediately. Mentioned about 5 times in the Old Testament. So that's pretty important. That's a 5 times witness. It's not just a mere double witness in the Bible. And if there's a double witness, you want to pay attention to it. It's like there's a double witness regarding the 10 Commandments, and a double witness regarding the blessings for obedience and the curses for disobedience. You want to pay attention to those. Those are in Leviticus and Deuteronomy. Those are very important. You need to learn those. If you read the curses for disobedience, you will read about your country today. So And if you look at that, the end result is terminal, which is where America is headed right now. That's where these leaders have taken us. I don't know if we can even get off this track. Anyway, Princess Skoda married an Israelite in dispersion. The Israelites that had settled in Spain had been in Greece previously, and then before that, it came from the northern house of Israel, as far as I can determine. I had a little bit more thought on this at one time, and I can't think of it right now to give it to you. But the important thing is that those people in Spain migrated up to Scotland. And as a result, Scotland was named after Princess Skoda. And then later, when Scotland wanted to become an independent nation, the Scottish people petitioned the Pope to be recognized. And they had the paperwork. They had the evidence, the proof that they were from Israel. And so you need to understand that that's the strongest case we have. And there was a treaty, a very famous treaty. I don't say it right. I've never heard it said. But it's in a wonderful little book written by a fellow that I was able to meet one time. Well, I've met him a couple of times. And that was Reed Benson, Dr. Benson. He really should have a doctorate just based upon that one book. It's that valuable. Get it for your kids. Back when I got it, I was getting copies for $13 and $10 a piece. I'm sure there are at least 15 today. Every child in America should be schooled in that. It's written at about a 7th grade level. So today's children should be able to read it in 10th grade. I know you've been dumbed down. Anyhow, Jeremiah married off the younger of the two princesses to an Israelite in dispersion in Spain. And then from there, he went out sailed through the Straits of Gibraltar, and he went around the continent and landed on the north side of Ireland. And in Ireland, he married off the second daughter, actually the first daughter, the crown princess. He married her off to the chieftain there that fell in love with her. However, there were strings attached. The fellow who was up there, by the way, was a descendant of Zerah. Now you have to remember that Yeshua, that Jesus, that David, all came from the line of Phares. So if you go back in your Bibles and you read in the book of Genesis about when Judah left on travels and Tamar, his daughter-in-law, disguised herself as a shrine prostitute, where she knew that Judah would be traveling back, she made a deal with Judah, and it was sex for a baby goat. She never did collect the baby goat, but that was the deal. And as a result, she became pregnant. And if we read in the Bible, one of Judah's men approached him and told him, hey, the people want to put, Tamar to death because she's committed prostitution. She's pregnant. And of course, Judah sent his main man over to check on Tamar. Let's find out what's going on. So he sent over his trusted servant. And Tamar had collected from Judah at the time of the deed, she collected the lanyard and the seal, 3 items from Judah. And when his man showed up at her tent and she was heavy with child, she took the 3 items and handed him to the servant and said, the father of the child, these belong to the father of the child. And of course, the servant goes back to Judah and she says, these belong to the father of the child. And at that point, Judah says, oh my God, She has been more honorable than I have. And they let her live. And if you read carefully there, you will see that there were 2 boys born. And one of them, and this, every word of the midwife who delivered that child, every word is prophetic in the Bible. And you ladies ought to go read this because it's really amazing. It's quite a love story. The first baby stuck his hand out, and the midwife was there with a piece of thread to mark the first child because this was going to be the heir to the throne. And the first one put his hand out, and the midwife tied the cord around his hand, and he pulled his hand back up inside. And the midwife said, "Oh, you're going to play that kind of a game, something about being mischievous." And the other boy came out first. And so we have an argument. Which child was the oldest child? Which one came out first? Pharez was born fully first, but Zerah had stuck his arm out, and to which a red thread was tied. A red cord was tied around that wrist, marking the oldest baby. And so Zerah came out with a claim as an heir to the throne, and Zerah ultimately ended up having 5 boys. And Zerah's boys were all, their intelligence was compared later with the intelligence of Solomon's. They were very bright boys. Now, what ended up happening, I guess, there was a dispute. Zerah means seed, meaning he's the oldest, and Pharez means breach, meaning he busted the breach first. And anyway, Jeremiah married off the crown princess to the chieftain of the Israelites in dispersion up in Northern Ireland. He's got a pretty fancy name. I've never been able to say it properly. I've never heard anyone else say it before. And it's a pretty marvelous name. And he had to agree to stop doing, I guess they were doing some worship that wasn't kosher. What a word to use, eh? It wasn't proper. And they had to stop doing that, and they had to make several other constellations. However, that is where the pillow stone ended up. And of course, when we go to the prophet Ezekiel, he writes about the prophet Jeremiah, saying the great eagle took the topmost tender twig, which in the original language is in the Hebrew, plucked it from the top of the tree and transplanted it. So Ezekiel is describing what Jeremiah did or would do. I don't know the perspective on that. Don't know if Ezekiel wrote first. I think he did. But anyway, Ezekiel says that would make the high branch low and the low branch high. So at that time, the crown, if you will, went from the line of Pharez to the line of Zerah. And that was the first turnover. However, Ezekiel mentions 3 turnovers in the Bible. And so from there, the pillow stone goes to Scotland, and the crown ends up in Scotland. And then that's the second turnover. And then from Scotland, it goes to England. That's the third turnover, and the pillow stone ended up there. Now, right now, the pillow stone is back in Scotland. However, they're going to haul it out because they got to coronate this bad guy on the throne. This guy is not in the line of David whatsoever. That was taken by his family years earlier. They do not belong on that throne. He's a bad guy. He is behind most of this attack on America and most of the stuff that's going on throughout the world. He actually was the first one to mention the Great Reset way before this Rothschild grandson. In case you don't know, that's a Rothschild there who spoke about the Great Reset. What's his name? Klaus Anal Schwab. You know, these little nicknames throw me off. Anyway, so Jeremiah was to plant things later on. And I believe, and I haven't found it yet, that he sailed out and he came over to the New World, the wilderness. So Jeremiah's a pretty big dude, pretty important. He accomplished some amazing things. We covered a few sections in Jeremiah the other day. And I think I've got a dog-eared page that I just came across that I was going to go for, because I usually just open this thing up when we get together in the morning and go with the Spirit. And there was something in here that the Spirit opened up the Bible to, and it's an amazing book. He was an amazing prophet. Just incredible stuff. He does prophesize. He prophesies about America. Yes, we live in the land of deceit. Everything is a bunch of lies. That government that you think you have is nothing but organized crime. And it's a problem. It's a real problem because we're about to get nuked. We don't have control over ourselves. The enemy has debauched us thoroughly. They did it to Weimar Germany first, and they learned their lesson over there. They went too fast in Germany. And as a result, they got Adolf Hitler. That was the result. And he wasn't all that bad, by the way. He did some great things. He actually turned the whole German people, the economy, everything around. And in case you're wondering, yes, that's on my mind. I wish we had one like him today, but I know a lot of you think he was the most evil man in the world, and that's what he was made out to be. I don't know about that. I don't know what to think about that. I don't think he was the most evil. I think he actually put the genie back in the bottle, and he saved the German people, and I think they loved him because of it. And by the way, did you know he could rightly be called the father of modern Israel? Yes. Read the transfer agreement by Edwin Black. It was Adolf Hitler that provided the means, the money, the transfer of wealth to Israel to the Middle East in order to create that modern state of Israel, which really is not Israel. If you're listening to this channel, watching it, the odds are you're Israel. I'm Israel, at least in this day of identity. I identify as an Israelite. My best buddy for quite a while there said he regarded himself as either a biblical Christian or an Israelite Christian. Man, we even have in here the new covenant. Behold, the days come, says Yahweh, and I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. Okay, we got all Israel involved in this. Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they broke, although I was husband to them, says Yahweh. But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel. After those days, says Yahweh, I will put my law in their inward parts and write it in their hearts, and will be their God, and they shall be my people. Most people today know right from wrong. It's as if it's been etched inside on their hearts. Most people understand that. There are some people that do not understand that, and that would be the sociopaths that live among us. And this is Jeremiah chapter 31. And we started at verse 31. Interesting. Jeremiah 31:31, 34. And they shall teach no more every man to his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, Know Yahweh. For they shall all know me. That's a big deal. Do you know Yahweh? Well, I'm working on it myself, so join me with that. From the least of them to the greatest of them, says Yahweh, for I will forgive their iniquity, and I will remember their sin no more. Now, folks, we haven't had a president who knows Yahweh. Or if we did, it's been so long ago that we certainly don't remember. Maybe one of our early presidents knew Yahweh. Thomas Jefferson, perhaps. George Washington, maybe. Adams? Maybe one of the two Adams? We just don't know. If you have an idea as to one of the presidents, which president knew Yahweh, I want to know. But the problem is that none of our presidents, as far as I can tell, have been proclaiming the name of Yahweh, knowing Yahweh. So hopefully that's coming. Hopefully that's coming. And that Kim Clement, who was a proclaimed prophet, said that there will be a man in the White House who will get down on his knees and pray, which means we're going to be in really bad shape. He's going to be praying to Yahweh. I want to see that man in office, because the guy we have in office right now is on the other side. Clearly, he's one of the devil's children. He's a Chi-Com agent put in power by the Chi-Coms. And you think there's no war going on, and you think that everything's hunky-dory. No. The Chi-Coms were able to put their man in the White House. They run us. They own us. And you don't realize it. They bought off almost all these politicians. Lock, stock, and barrel. Corrupt as hell. As Mark Twain said, we have the best congressman money can buy. So if the least of us knows Yahweh to the greatest of us, I don't see it in the greatest of us. Do you? Thus says Yahweh, which gives the sun for a light by day, and the ordinance of the moon and of the stars for a light by night, which divides the sea when the waves thereof roar. Yahweh of hosts is his name. If those ordinances depart from before me, says Yahweh, then the seed of Israel also shall cease from being a nation before me forever. Thus says Yahweh, if heaven above can be measured, and the foundations of the earth searched out beneath, I will also cast off all the seed of Israel for all they have done, says Yahweh. Just so you can see, page is dog-eared, highlighted, little things, got a cross, and the margin there, that indicates, that important verse, they shall no more teach every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, Know Yahweh, because we're all going to know Yahweh. And then down below that is bracketed with exclamation points, because those are pretty serious matters. We've got a problem, Houston. That's what the saying was. Wonder what the hell really happened on that stuff. Yeah, I don't even trust that. I just don't. I think we're just living in grand deception. We are ruled by liars and thieves, murderers, and that's just the way it is. Okay, here's what's coming in the future, and I think that this makes sense. I mean, if we have a nuclear war, you can bet people are going to be leaving the northern hemisphere. So, just imagine Russia and the United States have exchanged nuclear weapons, And for good measure, China tosses her nuclear weapons in there as well. The whole northern hemisphere is polluted up really badly, so we will have to leave the north. There will be an exodus out of the north if that's the way this thing goes. Is that what you want to see? Okay, we're back to another page, dog-eared here. Oh, it's Jeremiah 31. Earlier in the chapter that we're backing up. Verse 8, Behold, I will bring them from the north country and gather them from the coasts of the earth. The coasts of the earth. Not the coasts of one continent. The coasts everywhere. And with them the blind and the lame, the woman and child, and her that labors with child together. A great company shall return there. Folks, that's not Russia. A lot of you people say, oh, the Israelites already departed Russia and were gathered back home to Israel. I got news for you. I don't think Russia's got a bunch of coast. Yes, there's some coastline, but it's pretty much a landlocked country. They shall come with weeping, and with supplications will I lead them. I will cause them to walk by the rivers of waters in a straight way, wherein they shall not stumble. For I am a father to Israel, and Ephraim is my firstborn. He's a father to Israel, he's not a mother. What the heck's with that matriarchy the Jews practice? That's because they come from Mount Seir, Mount Edom. They have a matriarchy because of that. All this Old Testament stuff is patriarchal. That is Israelite. So when we talk about the great identity theft, that's a key marker of it. We have a patriarchy in the Old Testament. And yet we've got a group running around saying, we're the chosen people, we're the chosen ones. And they have a matriarchy? That doesn't add up, folks. It doesn't jive. Hear the word of Yahweh, verse 10. O you nations, and declare it to the isles afar off, and say, He that scattered Israel will gather him and keep him as a shepherd does his flock. My God, I immediately want to go to Zechariah. I mean, folks, I didn't plan on going here, and you already know that, because every time I plan one of these things, it doesn't go very well. But when I operate by the seat of my pants, by the Spirit, it goes pretty well. But we have to go here to Zechariah and see if I can find it. Oh boy. Zechariah 2:4 just jumps out at me. And said to him, Run, speak to this young man, saying, Jerusalem shall be inhabited as towns, plural towns, without walls, for the multitude of men and cattle therein. We don't have many walls here in the United States of America. We got a lot of towns. And we have a lot of men and a lot of cattle. For I, says Yahweh, verse 5, will be unto her a wall of fire around about. It says fire round about. And will be the glory in the midst of her. Ho, ho, come forth and flee from the land of the north, says Yahweh. For I have spread you abroad as the four winds of heaven, says Yahweh. This alludes to the dispersion of the Israelites. You see, folks, the Israelites aren't lost to Yahweh. He knows where we all are. We may be lost to ourselves, but He knows where we are. We were driven into Europe and then throughout the rest of the world. Yes, we are the real deal. We are the real descendants of Israel the man. I'm looking particularly for the Good Shepherd the bad shepherd. And this is an important thing to get to. It does describe, okay, here we are, Zechariah chapter 11. All right. And I've got Jerusalem 48:17 marked here. I'm going to go back there just real quickly because Jeremiah 48:17, 50, 49, 48. Why is this important to me? It's circled. And all you that are about him, bemoan him, and all you that know his name, say, how is the strong staff broken, and the beautiful rod? Okay, you need to understand something, folks. A lot of parallels between the northern part of the United States and the southern part of the United States, the Union and the Confederacy. And here we come up into a wonderful parallel, if you will, account that describes both what happened in Israel and what happened in the United States and what's probably going to happen again. Maybe we're living through it now. Zechariah 11, starting verse 10. And I took my staff, even beauty, and cut it apart, that I might break my covenant which I had made with all the people. And it was broken in that day, so the poor of the flock that waited upon me knew that it was the word of Yahweh. Sounds like the poor American people right now. We're becoming poor. And I said to them, if you think good, give me my price. And if not, forbear. So they weighed for me my price, 30 pieces of silver. And Yahweh said to me, cast it to the potter, a goodly price that I was valued at by them. And I took the 30 pieces of silver and cast them to the potter in the house of Yahweh. Then I cut into my other staff, even bands, which I might break the brotherhood between Judah and Israel. And Yahweh said to me, take you yet the instruments of a foolish shepherd. For lo, I will raise up a shepherd in the land which shall not visit those that are cut off, neither shall seek the young one, nor heal that is broken, nor feed that stands still, but shall eat the flesh of the fat, and tear their claws in pieces. Woe to the shepherd that leaves the flock! The sword shall be upon his arm, and upon his right eye. His arm shall be completely withered, and his right eye shall be utterly darkened. Okay, we're talking about the Messiah being betrayed by Judas for 30 pieces of silver. Nice. We're also talking about what's happening in the United States of America today. Because basically, the Union is being destroyed once again. We have the fight between good and evil. And the Democrats are basically agents of the Chi-Coms at this point. So are your Rhino Republicans, which is most of the Republicans in the deep state. All Chi-Com agents. All Reds. Remember the other day, I think it was on the other channel, so you're welcome to join me on the Dr. Kent Show. And I talked about George Washington's dreams. He had the angel visit him at least 3 nights, maybe it was 4. I don't have a good source for this. If you have a good source for it, leave me a link down below. Email me a link. Let me know what you have, because I'd really love to have some good references on this. But basically, George Washington in his dreams was shown the Civil War. A black cloud raising up off the continent of Africa, drifting all over the Atlantic Ocean, settling on North America. and the fighting in the cloud. Then he was shown that the World War One. Then he was shown World War Two. And then he was shown World War Three, in which red clouds rise up off all of the continents around the planet, every one of them. And they all converge on North America and settle on the ground here, and we fight among ourselves. You don't think we're fighting? We certainly are. Look at Silicon Valley. It's the line totally with the Chi-Coms. Look at your freedom of speech. It's been taken from you. Look at the Chi-Com agent in the White House. My God, there's a Chi-Com agent in the governor's seat in Arizona right now. That man is under their spell somehow. You know, he shut down, like most of the governors did, shut down the state, and he's almost forced the vaccines. Shouldn't talk about that. Okay, doggone it. Well, he suggested that stuff. I don't know what else to say, but I got to stop it right there and edit it out. I'm sorry.